Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to the campus of the University of Southern Mississippi. We're in the Duff Athletic Center, ready to have another one of our great visits with our Director of Athletics, Bill McGillis. It's been a while since we've sat down and visited with Bill, and Bill, there's a lot's happened since then. I guess the last time we sat down was right about the time that we were looking for a new football coach, and of course now Jay Hopson is here. He's got his staff here, so talk about that process. I know that was a whirlwind time of the year, all those things going on. Talk about that a little bit.
You know what? And as I look at that great eagle head pin that you have, it's got me thinking, John, real quickly about these wings. And I want to give a shout out to one of the all-time great Golden Eagles, Herman Herron. So I went old school today with the wings, but you know what? I think we're about to soar, and I think the transition in football has gone very, very well. You know, Jay, as really to nobody's surprise, has been so well received by people throughout the state. I think our fans are excited, and I think we've got momentum. I really do. It feels good. His getting to know his coaching staff as you are, and he has that group of 9 men in place now, and of course kept 2 members of the former staff, and John Wozniak and Latrell Pollard. Latrell's been with us a long time now, and John, a very bright young coach, someone who I think has a chance to be a head coach down the road. Zach Woodfin, our outstanding strength and conditioning coach, is still with us, and so we've got that continuity with those 3 men, and then the other 7 position coaches that Jay has brought in, I think really fit nicely together. He's got a blend. You know, he brought 2 assistant coaches from Alcorn State with him, his young defensive line coach Derek Nicholson, and then Tony Pecoraro, the defensive coordinator. Dan Dish is back coaching the secondary again for his second time at Southern Miss, and so you've got that familiarity with Southern Miss. You know, from Coach Fedora's last season, in which they had a lot of success on defense. And Shannon Dawson, I think, our new offensive coordinator, is viewed by a lot of people as one of the really up-and-coming offensive coaches in America. And so that's exciting. And Desmond Lindsay, the most recent addition to the staff from West Georgia, who will be our tight end coach, has recruited Mississippi extensively. Tim Billings, very, very experienced coach. He'll be on the defensive side of the ball. Has been a defensive coordinator at Wake Forest. He's coached at Memphis. He's been a high school head coach in Texas. He was with Jay for a number of years at Marshall. Really brings some experience to the staff, and I think will be someone that Jay relies on, you know, quite a bit. You've got the change with Latrell flipping from the defensive side to the offensive side. Jack Wright, our new offensive line coach, long coaching history and family in Mississippi. His father, one of the all-time great high school coaches here in this state. So I think the chemistry of the staff, the early indications I have are it's really good, and they're all excited to be here. They're ready to go for spring ball, which is on the horizon. I think our players have responded very well to the new coaching staff. So I think we're off to a great start, John.
Talk a little bit about, and folks have heard you talk about Jay Hopson, but you've gotten to know him probably a little better here the last 6 weeks or so. What are some things that you maybe have discovered about Jay that maybe our fans don't know about his commitment to Southern Miss, his commitment to the type of program he wants to run? What are some things you learned there?
Well, you know, and I think I mentioned at the press conference, I'd met Jay 3 times. Well, 3 times before the interview process, and then 3 times during the interview process. But I had first met Jay at a couple of events here in Mississippi at the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, one of their annual luncheons, I think maybe for the Connerly Trophy. And then he and I did a presentation together with the Mississippi High School Athletic Directors Association, maybe my first year. So I'd been with him in those 2 settings. And then, of course, when his football team came here and played so well against us, 2 years ago, I went to their locker room after the game to seek him out and congratulate him on that battle that particular day. And so I had some awareness of him, and I had been tracking him for a couple of years. And then when we got into the interview process, I actually spent a lot of time with him. Interviewed him 3 times, and the final time resulted in our handshake and execution of a contract. And You know, during that process was when I really first got a feel for how much he wanted to be at Southern Miss. And there was just no doubt. You know, we asked every head coach candidate that we interviewed to tell us about their dream job. And we asked them because we wanted to test them in a way and see how they reacted to a question like that. Naturally, we didn't expect the answer with all of those 7 or 8 candidates to be Southern Miss if they were being truthful. And so we want to kind of see how they answered that. We really didn't ask Jay that question because he spoke so glowingly and with so much passion about Southern Miss prior to us getting that question. And then at the very end in our final visit, when we talked about the terms of his contract, you know, and he agreed to a $2 million buyout if he left, essentially if he left Southern Miss during this first 4-year period. And he never hesitated for a second. So I understood his level of conviction. In fact, I asked him about a particular job somewhere else as he spoke so passionately about wanting to be at Southern Miss. I said, what about if X job opens up? And you can guess what job that might be. And I said, I don't want to be there. I want to be at Southern Miss. That's where I want to coach. That's where I want to be. And he wasn't just saying that. He meant it. And then that's been reinforced really every day. You could see immediately upon his arrival how comfortable he was in being here. You know, his 2 kids were born here. Michelle, his beautiful wife, has a lot of friends here. She's very comfortable here. And this is where they want to be, where they want to live. And every time he and I have been together, driving up Highway 49 or down 98, going to an event, going to a lunch, you know, we talk about the history of the place, which he knows better than I do. You know, we talk about the people that have been here, the coaches that have been here, the players that have been here. And you know, he's got black and gold in those veins. He really does. And everything I thought about him has been reinforced, you know, along the way. And he's still undefeated. You know, so I'm especially excited, as our fans are. But I just think it's a great, great match. And that's what I've said to a lot of people. The governor hosted a reception at the governor's mansion this week for Jay and some of our legislators and other folks at the Capitol. And I talked privately with a few of them about so many times in our industry and in other industries, you can hire excellent people who will do a fine job. But it's probably rare to find something that you really, really feel with conviction is a great, great match. And that's what I think we have here. We have a great match.
Well, people have gotten a chance to meet Jay, maybe not everybody yet, but you're kind of working on that during the spring, during the summer, the To the Top tour. We're going to take Jay out and let him meet folks who maybe don't have a chance or haven't had a chance to come to Hattiesburg or be at some of the other events. So talk about that a little bit, the process of that and what that's all about.
I'd love to. We've spent a lot of time on this, and I think right now it's not a final, but we probably will call it the To the Top tour with Coach Hopson and some other coaches. Our friend Brent Jones wanted to go with the Hop to the Top tour. We might still do that. But also if our fans have ideas on what we want to term this little road trip, send them my way, send them John's way, and we'll think about those. But we do want to bring Jay and our other coaches out to see Golden Eagles everywhere. And I think historically Southern Miss has done a pretty good job of that. We want to do a great job this spring and early summer. So I know I looked at a calendar just before our meeting today, John, of the places we want to go and when we want to go to those places, and we're fine-tuning that calendar. But we plan over the next 6 to 8 weeks to be in Natchez, Vicksburg. We need to get into some people's wallets in Vicksburg. You know, we got to tap into the Jay Hopson connection there. But we'll be there. You know, the Macomb, Brookhaven area, we'll try to get through there. We're going to make our way up to Memphis, to Nashville, to Huntsville, to Birmingham. We'll get down on the coast. We've been on the coast a couple of times. We're going to hit Mobile. We're going to hit the Gulfport, Biloxi area again. Hopefully Pascagoula, and we'll get to New Orleans. We'll get to probably a couple stops in New Orleans, the North Shore and downtown New Orleans. So we're going to try to hit those key areas. We're going to get to Atlanta. We're going to get to Dallas. We're going to get to Houston. We'll probably get to Central Florida and try to get the Orlando, Tampa, Sarasota, kind of that area where we've got a lot of folks. Folks that have followed us for a long, long time. And so we're going to try to do that over a period of, again, 6 to 8 weeks. And probably in a concentrated period of about 4 days, we're going to get a group of coaches together on a bus and hit several of those stops. Some will be before, some will be during that window, and a few after. And that specific window of an intense 3-4 day period will probably be in that May 31st to June 3rd or 4th range. And if I haven't mentioned an area that fans want us to come to, we'll try to get there. Just let us know. You know, we've got Golden Eagles throughout the country, and we've got people who can get to our campus and get to games, and then we've got other people that can't. One of our initiatives we've talked really briefly about is launching a national Golden Eagle Club for those people that are passionate about Southern Miss but are not here and not going to be here often, to give them sort of their own identity and sense of belonging. So we might get to that too. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and I think the To the Top tour is probably the right label, because that's what it's all about. It's how do we get there, and we might mix that word together into that tour also, because as we've talked about, and we've talked about with our alumni, fans, and supporters, the only way we're going to have the kind of success that we want to have in football and our other sports is for all of us to lock arms and do it together.
All right, let me ask you one more football question, and we'll move on to some other things that are going on. Next up on the football calendar is spring football practice. That's getting ready to get started. It culminates with the spring football game, and that's a great opportunity for our fans to come and watch the Golden Eagles during that sort of March and April process leading up to the spring game, and then be here for what'll be a big weekend with the spring football game.
No doubt, no doubt. And spring practice is going to crank up on March 22nd, and I think Jay's plan right now is to practice every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, culminating on April 23rd with the spring game. And I think several of those scrimmages and/or practices, at least some of them will have the opportunity for the public to attend, and of course the spring game. And Brent and his team are going to really try to turn that day into a great day for Golden Eagles. Baseball's in town that weekend. Softball is off that weekend, but we're going to have a lot of activities going on that weekend of April 23rd. So we've got that going on. Zach Woodfin and his staff have been working really hard preparing for spring practice to have those guys in great condition for Jay and this coaching staff. And I know Jay and that staff is just chomping at the bit, as are the players, because there's going to be some change. There's going to be an infusion of new ideas, new energy, and I think that's exciting for everybody involved. And John, we've got to capitalize on this period right now in terms of selling season tickets for 2016 and driving membership in the Eagle Club for 2016, 2017. Right now is the time to do it, and we'll have a chance to be in front of a lot of people this spring, including during spring practice and at the spring game. And I want to invite, ask, challenge Golden Eagles everywhere to really realize that now's the time. And we've said that before. We need to continue to say it. It's not a year from now. It's not 2 years from now. In order to do the things we want to do, to make the math work, to balance our budget, to invest in the future, to have the kind of program we want to have, we need people to invest today. And so we'll try to take advantage of the spring to do that, and then propel our program forward. The Labor Day weekend trip, that we're all going to take, and hopefully several thousand Golden Eagles, is Labor Day weekend to Lexington, Kentucky, to kick it all off next year. And that's going to be here before you know it. It really is. So we got to take advantage of this window that we have now.
All right, let me one step back. Basketball season just ended, and Doc Sadler and his ball club, I was with them all the way. I don't know if I've ever seen a Golden Eagle team that played harder from start to finish than the team. I thought that was such a great tribute to Doc, because very easy for that team maybe to have just kind of thrown in the towel with all that was kind of going against them. But an amazing job, I thought, by Doc and his staff and his players to do what they were able to do this year.
And you, John, you had the privilege and the chance to see our team more than anybody else. Probably did not miss a game, and home or away. So, but I'm with you, and I've had a lot of fans come up to me as recently as a couple of days ago and just talk about the effort of those young men and of Doc Sadler and that staff. And I think they did a tremendous job of just keep pushing forward under circumstances and adversity far beyond what most realize. And the fans that were able to get to our games this season right up to the end, I think we're really pleased with the effort and the performance, in large part. Won some games that we weren't expected to, and we're right there to the finish, including the very last game against Marshall with a sensational effort on the road against a very good team. So I'm really proud of Doc. He's going to be our basketball coach for a long time and going to do great things. And I'll mention, I want to give an update on the NCAA men's basketball case. I'd like to do that and be transparent with our folks, and I'm often asked about that. I do still believe it will be during the month of April when we have a decision from the NCAA as to whether there's any further penalty related to our program. And the violations that occurred under the former coaching staff, those allegations are very serious. And there are serious consequences that go with those violations, and that's why we, 2 years in a row, self-imposed a postseason ban. And there may very well be some additional penalties unrelated to a postseason ban, I hope. But certainly there will be some other penalties, and we'll emerge from those things. We need to get that decision in front of us, behind us, and look ahead in a really positive way. We're going to have an excellent group of players back. Most of this team will be back. There might be some attrition with 2 or 3 guys, but we're probably going to have about 10 players back. Great foundation. He's redshirted a couple of guys. He'll add another piece or two depending on the NCAA matter. And I'm truly optimistic about the future of our men's basketball program. And also I want to mention women's basketball. After 2 just terrific seasons, winning 50 to 55 games over 2 years, which is among the highest figures in the country. Joy had a young team this year, injuries, again, some player attrition that hurt, but they kept battling, and there's great days ahead for our women's basketball program as well. And now we're into this. Now we're into the spring.
Yep. Well, let's talk baseball then. Baseball. Yeah. I wish we had time to speak about all the sports, but baseball is off to a tremendous start. Getting ready to open conference play as we sit here and talk today. You've got to be pleased with the crowds you've seen at Pete Taylor Park and the way this baseball team has gotten off to such a tremendous start.
I am, and Scott felt like in the off season he had a really nice club that he was going to coach this spring, and I'm so excited for Coach Berry, for those young men, and for our fans that we've been able to get off to a great start. The last couple years, it's felt like we've got off to a slow start. Our RPI has lagged, maybe 100 plus, and we've had to kind of chase that RPI and success all season long. This year's been different, and the last time I checked, our RPI was in the top 15 in the country. With the Alabama win, the team moved to 14-4. 8 straight wins over the Southeastern Conference. We need to celebrate that. We need to celebrate 8 straight wins over the SEC. I cannot believe that there is a school that's outside the SEC that's beaten SEC opponent 8 straight times. I doubt there is. And that's an achievement, and we're going to have some more opportunities to do that. But it is a great way to start the year. We've got a good team. A lot of pieces. And we'll have the chance to host that conference tournament again. And then again, we'll go to Biloxi for the next 3 years, which will be very exciting. Really enjoyed our first trip to Biloxi, playing South Alabama, except for the final result. Great ballpark at MGM Park, right across from the Beau Rivage. We'll be back there to play Tulane. We've got a couple of the neutral site opportunities with Ole Miss and Mississippi State at Trustmark Park in Jackson, which should be fun. So great stuff going on there. Wendy Hoag's doing a super job with our softball program. And as we just keep adding pieces to the puzzle with softball, more and more talent each year to go with the great group of young ladies we have, we're going to have a lot of success in softball. Wendy's just in year 2 doing great things. And then a bunch of these Olympic sports are doing great jobs. Erica Brennan, her first year as our women's golf coach, great things. A lot of enthusiasm, excitement there. Won a tournament in the fall, had a great tournament earlier this spring. Jerry Weeks is going to do good things, represents us so well with such class. John Stewart, that program truly, which gets no publicity, might be on the steepest positive trajectory of any program we have. John Stewart's doing great with track and field here. Both tennis teams are off to maybe 2 of the best starts in a decade. Both have been or have a chance to be nationally ranked, and compete for championships in the near future. So really pleased competitively with the progress we're making. And competition matters. Success matters. Winning matters. It matters today and it's going to matter tomorrow.
Well, let me ask you a couple more things. Baseball primarily, but other sports as well. You mentioned the neutral site games, whether it be Biloxi, not really a neutral site, kind of a home away from home, but Biloxi, Trustmark Park, and up in Pearl, places like that. The conference tournament here, the conference tournament next year down in Biloxi at MGM Park. How important is it for our fans when our teams are playing in places like that to turn out and support those events and things like that?
Very, very important. And we want to be able to take our team around the state to the capital and to the coast and to New Orleans from time to time. We want to play in those markets. We want to play where our people are, but there's a balancing act, because when you do that, you give up a game at Pete Taylor Park or at one of our other venues where we have a chance to have a tremendous amount of support at home and generate revenue. When we go to Jackson or we go to the coast or we go to New Orleans, those agreements are generally between us and a promoter or a partner in those communities who have invested in bringing that event there by providing a cash guarantee to us and to the opponent. And in order to sustain that financial model for those promoters and those partners, we need people in the stands. So it benefits us on a couple of fronts. We want a home field advantage when we go to those places with black and gold throughout those venues. And then financially, in order to return to those places, they have got to be supported. One thing I want to mention with respect to MGM Park, there were some logistical challenges there getting people into the stadium in a timely manner the last time we played. We talked to the folks at MGM Park, Tim Bennett, the owner there, who's super. They've ironed out those things, so we don't think that will be a problem again. But we do want to encourage our fans to buy in advance, online if they can, or at the Ferlisi Center through Ticketmaster, and also to get there early. We had a lot of people show up just before the 7 o'clock start there. But those events are great, and those venues are phenomenal venues. They're also important in recruiting. Kids like playing in those venues, so we'd like to continue to be able to do them, but we're only going to be able to continue to do them if they're well supported. When we go to conference tournaments away from here, also like Birmingham, when we go back next year, one of the reasons I voted for Birmingham, if we couldn't have it here, is because so our people can get there. And next year, when our men's basketball team and women are back in Birmingham, the men for the first time in 3 years, or wherever that tournament ends up being next year, we need to turn out big, okay? And again, that matters in terms of bowl game decisions, how we travel, conference alignment, how we travel. There's a lot of tentacles based on how our fans support us that are important. Before we talk about, I know you wanted to ask me about conference alignment and some of the things that fans like to ask about. People have asked me recently about homecoming and dotting the I's, crossing the T's on the football schedule. Our television partners in Conference USA have until or about April 1st to choose the games within the conference that they want to televise. We're not going to set homecoming until after the TV partners have selected the TV games, because we don't want to choose let's say the Marshall game on October 29th, I think it is, as homecoming, and then have that game moved to a Friday night. Or, you know, we'd like to have homecoming in the evening and then have TV move it to 2:30. So probably for homecoming, you're looking at Rice as a possibility on October 1st. You're probably looking at Marshall at the end of the month, and probably looking at Charlotte in early November as possibilities for homecoming if people want to just keep those three in mind. But it'll be early April when we determine that, and we know what games are televised. We're a commodity now. You know, we may very well be picked to win this conference. The TV people are interested in us again, and so we just need that bit of detail before we wrap up the final pieces on the schedule.
All right, you mentioned, I was going to bring it up, but you mentioned conference alignment. I know you get bombarded with questions about that. What's the landscape out there look like, not just for Southern Miss, but for college athletics with conference realignment?
You know, it's still fluid, and it really always is. And I've talked to a lot of athletic directors in the last few weeks from around the country, from the High Resource 5 conferences, you know, those in the Big 12, those in the American Athletic Conference, and other conferences. And we compare notes and we talk about the landscape, and there's a lot of uncertainty, to be honest. If the Big 12 makes a move, that will probably determine, that will probably create a domino effect. And we've got to be prepared for that possibility. You know, I mentioned to one of our local members of the media who asked me about conference alignment and some of the things that had circulated on the internet, and you know, some's great to have it circulate, and some other maybe not so much. And someone said to me, well, isn't it true, Bill, that once something is retweeted 3 times, it's fact? And people sometimes think that, but and that's okay sometimes. But it's a fluid landscape, a lot of uncertainty. It's not appropriate for me to comment on private conversations, private communication. It's not appropriate for me to grandstand or talk in grandiose terms about opportunities that may or may not come. That's not in our best interests. What's in our best interests is to work privately, quietly, respectfully, to share our story. The things that we have to do here, and you know, it may seem that I'm talking about it ad nauseum, but it's the truth of the matter, where we are today and where we want to be. The single most important thing we can do is restore our program to greatness. That's number one. And it starts with football. And we're on that path. We've already started that. We've made tremendous improvement, and we've got more to come. We need to have the best football program in Conference USA, which we've had before. We need to be champions again. We need to win in our other sports. So competitively, we've got to concentrate on excellence. The right leadership, the right resources, the right investment, right facilities, all of that. Number one, continue to graduate our kids, provide a great experience, but we got to strengthen our program first and foremost. And people will see that. They'll know what we're doing, and they knew what we did in this football season. I've talked to a lot of members of the national media, people in our industry. They know we won 9 games. They know we went to a bowl game. They know we're going to be very, very good next year. Secondly, we've got to continue to marshal the resources to have a championship program. If people want to be in another conference or want to have the very best program in Conference USA, which is our home currently, we have got to marshal more resources to do it. You know, budgets in the American Athletic Conference are beyond our budget. You know, and in the High Resource 5, certainly, and in other places. Now, we've always outperformed our resources. We're always going to be lean, but we've got to build our season ticket base. We've got to take our season ticket base to 15,000 to 20,000 people. We'll probably set an all-time record this year. We'll probably get over 12,000. We got to take it to 15, then 20. That's what we have to do to be great. We've got to double our membership in the Eagle Club. If you're not in the Eagle Club, if you're not a season ticket holder, but you want greatness for Southern Miss, it's the single most important thing you can do for us. And you as an individual can make a difference. Everybody can. Everybody, whatever the level is. It's not about the guy that can give 7 figures, you know, or the guy that can give $100. It's about all of us together just doing what we can. So that's number 2, the resources. So competitive excellence, winning, greatness on the field. Okay, marshaling the resources to sustain that excellence, and then telling the story. I want our fans to know that I'm going to tell the story. I am telling the story in the right way, proactively, to the right people, at the right time, in a professional way, in an innovative way probably at times. And we'll keep doing that. And but first and foremost, let's win some championships here. Let's win some championships in the league that we're in. Let's elevate the brand of Conference USA, because we can do great things in Conference USA, and as a league we can do great things. And all the while, we will be carefully monitoring the landscape, visiting with who we need to visit with, and be positioned for long-term future success.
All right, before we wrap up, I think the last time we talked, I said you're going to give one of these to Jay Hopson. I'm sure that you have done that. If we would slip into his office, I'm sure he's got in his pocket. So was Jay excited, I'm sure, to get one of these, because you don't give one of these just to everybody.
I'll tell you what, everywhere I go, people are starting to ask about this coin. And they ask about that pin.
Yeah.
And I need Brent Jones, Brian Morrison, and other guys to always have a box of those pins with them, because people constantly ask me for that. And frequently I'll take the pin off my lapel and I'll give it to them, and I'll frequently take this coin out of my pocket and give it to them. In fact, I did it yesterday, so just before a meeting I had to grab another one.
Well, you've always said to the top and now together, and I think as you're out and around watching Golden Eagle people, I can see them coming together more and more and more every time I'm at a Southern Miss event or a ball game. So that says a lot about your leadership and what you've been able to kind of get people excited about it, Southern Miss. So thanks as always for spending some of your valuable time with us to get our folks up to date on what's going on at Southern Miss, and we'll look forward to doing it again real soon.
John, thank you. And I want our fans to know, because it's about them and it's about the student athletes, how much I appreciate our fans who support us for so long. I mean, the energy at Pete Taylor Park for the Alabama game, you know, if we could just bottle that up and carry it with us through Labor Day, great things are going to happen, and we need them to happen this spring. So again, I'm very appreciative of our fans and everything they're doing for the student athletes here, because that's what it's about.
Well, it is an exciting time to be a part of what's going on in athletics at Southern Miss and around the University of Southern Mississippi. So we will do our best to keep you up to date on what's going on in regards to athletics. A lot of exciting things happening at Southern Miss, and thank you for being a part of all that makes Southern Miss so special. We'll see you next time with another sit down with our Director of Athletics, Bill McGillis. Till then, so long, everybody.